Capitol security was on high alert today over threats of a second attack like the one we saw on January 6th.
The Capitol is fortified like a compound.
The added measures followed warnings yesterday from the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security of a possible attack by militia extremist groups who follow QAnon conspiracy theories, including one that said Trump would be restored to the presidency today. As far as I know, it hasn't happened yet, the attack or the start of Trump's second term. Despite the new threats, the Senate is moving forward with debate over Biden's nearly $2 trillion COVID relief package, although Republican Senator Ron Johnson is aiming to slow that progress with a demand for the 700-page document to be read out loud in its entirety, 10 hours worth. As for the other chamber, while Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the decision to cancel today's House session, quote, made sense given the warnings, she also argued the Capitol needs a permanent security increase to keep operating safely.
I don't think anybody should take any encouragement that because some troublemakers might show up, that we changed our whole schedule. No, we just moved it a few hours, and it largely will accommodate the Republicans going to their own session. It's going to take more money to protect the Capitol in a way that enables people to come here, children to come and see our democracy in action, all of you to cover what happens here safely, members to be comfortable that they are safe when they are here.
One of such members, Congressman Jim McGovern, the chair of the House Rules Committee, joins me now. Congressman, good to see you as always.
Happy to be with you.
You know, even if cancellation of today's House session was only in part because of what Nancy Pelosi euphemistically called the troublemakers, doesn't that send a pretty dangerous message?
Look, we're living in an extraordinary time. I mean, we have a problem with domestic terrorism, a problem with a rise in white supremacism and these neo-Nazi groups and militia groups, and they attacked the Capitol on January 6th. I think what Speaker Pelosi did by keeping us in late last night so we could finish the week's work and not being in today was to provide peace of mind, mostly to some of the institutional staff who, quite frankly, were very traumatized by what happened on the 6th. It's just an added precaution. But look, we have to listen to the security experts and take their advice.
You know, speaking of safety, as you know, yesterday, Major General William Walker, head of the National Guard in D.C., testified in front of the Senate about the request for assistance from his people. Here's part of what he had to say.
The approval for Chief Son's request would eventually come from the acting Secretary of Defense and be relayed to me by Army senior leaders at 5:08 p.m., about 3 hours and 19 minutes later. The memo was unusual. The Secretary of Defense told me I needed his permission to escalate, to have that kind of protection.
He went on to say that in his 19 years, he had never encountered a situation where the Secretary of Defense had to sign off. What was your reaction to that, Congressman?
I'm outraged. I mean, but yet this is typical of the ex-president's administration. I mean, he incited this riot, and he enjoyed watching the chaos on Capitol Hill. What his behavior, in my opinion, was criminal. I mean, the fact that 3 hours into this, where a Capitol police officer was killed, where so many were injured, where so many people's lives were at stake, that they were still twiddling their thumbs, is outrageous.
You know, staying on this just for a second, when I heard yesterday that one of Trump's favorites, Michael Flynn's younger brother, was involved in the Pentagon decision for the delay, it caused me to start thinking about how far up the chain this delay decision went. What conclusion do you draw from Flynn's presence?
Well, it raises a lot of questions. And here's the deal. We're going to put together a nonpartisan commission, similar to the 9/11 Commission, to review this from top to bottom. And we're going to get answers that, quite frankly, both sides are going to be able to believe are true. And then we're going to need to report the truth, and then we're going to need to demand some accountability. If, in fact, there were higher-ranking members in this administration, other than the president, quite frankly, who was ultimately responsible for this, who delayed getting protection to people in the Capitol, we need to hold them to account. Look, this was a terrible, terrible humiliation for our country. People died. People were injured. It's a miracle that more people didn't die. And our intelligence services are telling us these people are still planning to attack again.
Getting back to what you said a minute ago, Trump's election lies obviously provided the oxygen for January 6th. Is there any evidence of any of your Republican colleagues being ready to break free from this cult, or is it just full speed ahead?
Well, that's been one of the troubling facts in the aftermath of all of this. I thought after the attack that people would basically not vote to endorse Trump's big lie that somehow this election was stolen. Yet the vast majority of Republicans did that. And then after that, I thought they would try to distance themselves. And unfortunately, we have some Republicans, some you mentioned Senator Ron Johnson earlier, but others as well, who continue to promote this big lie, to try to explain away or justify what happened on the 6th as if it was no big deal. A bunch of patriotic Americans just got caught up in the moment. I mean, what happened on January 6th was an insurrection. People tried to basically stage a coup to overturn the legitimate results of an election. That's a big deal. And people died. And we just can't move on. We need the truth. And we need accountability before we can talk about moving on and healing.
Well, the Democrats have moved on. Some huge action in recent days. As I mentioned, close to $2 trillion in COVID relief onto the Senate, police reform onto the Senate, H.R. 1, which does a lot of good government things from campaign finance reform to dealing with the gerrymandering scandal. While it doesn't matter that a bare majority was all that was able to be gotten in the House, it does matter at least on two of those bills in the Senate, police reform and H.R. 1, which will obviously need 60 votes, not just 50. Are you among those who believe the Democrats in the Senate have to just stand up and try to pull the votes together to remove the filibuster so they can do what Republicans before them have done on critical legislation and appointments?
I do. I mean, look, we need to get things done for the country. And the filibuster has been so misused over the years. It's been weaponized in a way where it's not a rarity. It is invoked constantly. So, yeah, I would, if I were in the Senate, I'd vote to overturn the filibuster and vote to get things done for the American people.
What's the hesitancy? Even Joe Biden appears not to be on board. I mean, you've heard this before. The Republicans play politics under one set of rules, and the Democrats play politics under a much more polite set of rules. What's the deal?
Well, I mean, we have to open our eyes to what the reality is here, and you're absolutely right. The Republicans have used procedural motions to basically block, almost all of President Obama's agenda, and quite frankly, they're going to do it again with President Biden. So, I'm glad we're using reconciliation so we can get around the filibuster for this COVID relief package. Otherwise, we wouldn't have one. And we're going to use it again in the future, I hope. But I would hope that Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, two of the Democratic senators that are holdouts here, would understand that, this is not just about upholding traditions. When these traditions are being weaponized, it's about trying to protect the American people and actually help the American people. And that's why they ought to vote to overturn the filibuster.
Congressman, the minimum wage hike ultimately to $15 was included in the House version of the relief package. It will not be included in the Senate version. Realistically speaking, I know there's been a lot of rhetoric about how critical it is from your boss, but from the Speaker of the House on down and to leaders in the Senate. But the reality is if it's not included in this package, it's dead for this session. Is that not a fair analysis?
Yeah, well, I'm not ready to say that it's dead, but, certainly it's on life support. People like Joe Manchin and others have talked about, coming up with some sort of a compromise. But look, I do a lot of work on hunger issues, and I do do a lot of work to protect programs like SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which used to be known as food stamps. People always say to me, well, all those people on SNAP ought to just get a job. Well, the majority of able-bodied people who can work, who are on SNAP actually do work. And they get paid a wage that is not livable. So low, in fact, that they qualify for SNAP. Bottom line is work out of pay. And we talk about the dignity of work. Where's the dignity in a job that requires you to rely on things like food stamps and other government programs just to be able to make ends meet? So this is a moral issue. It's a values issue. And we have to keep the fight up and keep the pressure up.
Before you go, I want to end where we ended when I spoke to you shortly after the insurrection. Partisanship is one thing. You work with 140 people at least who denied the Democratic results of the election, not one of whom voted for any of this legislation we talked about, one of whom endorsed the notion of shooting the speaker in the head, another who may have led a reconnaissance mission through the House the day before the insurrection, and you may end up working in what is virtually an armed camp for a long period of time. What is the future of democracy, Congressman?
Well, I continue to be hopeful, in large part because I've been spending a lot of time talking to young people, not just in college, but in high schools and middle schools, who actually, believe in this country, who want to fight to deal with issues like the climate crisis, and who care about ending poverty and ending hunger in this country, and who believe in equal justice under the law, and who believe in civil rights and human rights. And so, I think I have a lot of hope in that. But look, this is a very difficult moment. There's no doubt about it. And I'm having a tough time, quite frankly, dealing with some of my colleagues who continue to embrace the big lie. It's hard to look at them in the face and try to be civil when they continue to imply that Donald Trump somehow won the election by a landslide, and try to explain away the behavior of those people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. These are difficult times, but I believe in these young people. I believe the future's in their hands, and they're going to fix a lot of what's wrong with our country right now.
I hope your hope is justified. Congressman, it's great to see you as always. Thanks for your time.
Be safe.